Today I'm going to debunk 4 myths about overturning Roe versus Wade.
Be strong.
Recently there was a leak that the Supreme Court is looking to overturn Roe versus Wade, which is a legislation that has been on the books since 1973 that allows pregnancies to be terminated for almost any reason. And it would be an understatement to say that people are losing their minds. Pro-life folks are already dancing in the streets, claiming victory in protecting the lives of the unborn. And on the flip side, there's pro-choice folks that are lamenting that the rich white men just want to further control women and putting women's reproductive health at risk. Hold up. Let's take a breath for a minute and consider the facts. First of all, nothing has actually happened just yet. Apparently, the justices can change their vote later on and make various changes to the draft before that is finalized. And regardless of which side you're on, there are 4 myths about overturning Roe versus Wade. The first myth is that abortion would be made illegal if Roe versus Wade is overturned. And this isn't necessarily true. It simply means that each state will decide how to handle this law instead of the federal government. Now, I'm very intentional about saying it that way because there are so many people that want to complain about state representatives and government officials, but the number of people that are turning out to vote is just embarrassingly low. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the U.S. is ranked 30th out of 35 nations when it comes to voter turnout. And that voter turnout is about 55.7%, and people 18 to 24 are the lowest voting demographic. So if we had 90% of the people show up to make their voices heard in the voting booths like they do in Turkey, Sweden, and Australia, we just might see something different in our country, especially if each of us honestly researched, got to know the candidates, and voted our conscience instead of following CNN and Fox News. The second myth about overturning Roe versus Wade is that it would lead to the end of democracy. Now, I don't even understand this particular argument, but people are saying it. The fact is that I think things will be more democratic. If the decision goes through, then each of the 50 states will be able to determine how to handle this law, and each state will have the right to choose, so to speak. And the people will have the right to weigh in and decide if they show up to vote. And this, my friends, is what democracy is all about. Another myth about overturning Roe versus Wade is that it will take away a woman's right to choose. Please feel free to refer to numbers 1 and 2. Some states will decide to keep abortion legal, while others may restrict it in some kind of way. And I'm sure there will states that will ban it altogether. But what annoys me about this on both sides is we're all acting like it's all or nothing. Folks on the right are acting like people are lined up down the block to get an abortion every other day. And people on the left, they're acting like women are going to be put in pods like in the Matrix and be forced to continuously push out babies. But let's talk about choice for a second. Life is full of choices. Many of us walk through life feeling as if things are forced on us when we're faced with something in life, but there's always a choice. Why is The Rock's in so much better shape than I am and so much better looking? Genetics certainly plays a part in that, but primarily he makes very different choices than what I do. He trains like a maniac while I prefer to be in a reclining position most of the day eating brownies. Before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge that many pregnancies are due to sexual assault or even spousal coercion, and I don't want to be dismissive about any of those things, and those perpetrators need to be dealt with severely and be put under the jail. But if that doesn't happen, I know God will take care of them. However, pregnancies due to assault account for around 1 to 5%. The Guttmacher Institute estimates that there are about 890,000 abortions per year in the United States, so 5% of that is approximately 45,000. So let's get back to choice. Why don't we talk about abstinence? When I had to talk with my kids, I told them that the surefire way to ensure that you don't get pregnant is by not having sex. Outside of immaculate conception, it is impossible. So I'm glad that it's become normative to talk about consent, because men and women both have a choice when it comes to who you are intimate with. Some people say,
oh, you can't expect people not to be intimate. You know, men are meant to sow their seed and women have their needs too.
Well, Proverbs 25 and 27 says it's not good to eat much honey, nor is it glorious to seek one's own glory. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Honey in itself isn't a bad thing. You can enjoy this sweet nectar from time to time, but when you get a taste of it, something that is so good, our appetite just becomes insatiable and we just want more. You know, just like in the Garden of Eden, the enemy sneaks in and tells you that something is okay, even though that you know it isn't. Sexual intimacy is a gift from God that is specifically designed to be shared within the confines of marriage. So when you give into temptation once, you feel as if you just can't help yourself. But if you really can't help yourself, you still have plenty of other choices in preventing pregnancy, such as birth control, condoms, and other various techniques. By the way, this isn't all up to women. Men, I'm going to call you out too, because you have a role and a responsibility here too. It takes two to tango, so you both need to decide how you're going to be responsible. The last myth I want to cover today about overturning Roe versus Wade is that it will take away a woman's bodily autonomy. You know, we've heard the mantra, my body, my choice, for many years, and how we need to defend a woman's right to choose. We use terms about protecting a woman's reproductive health. But this is the center of the debate because conservatives hold to the fact that the baby in the womb is a person deserving of life and liberty as well. So who's going to stand for their rights? So if you look at a baby's development in the womb, it's hard to deny that it isn't a person, especially after the first 4 weeks. Scientifically, the embryonic stage, which is 3 to 8 weeks, is when the baby develops a distinct human characteristics. This is when the central nervous system develops and includes the spinal cord and brain. And if you remember high school biology, the central nervous system, it takes in sensory information, it processes that information and sends out motor signals. Around 4 to 5 weeks, you start to see the eyes and nose, ears, mouth, arms, and legs are formed. And it's also about the time that the heart begins to pulse. And by the 9th to the 12th week, the baby begins to have reflexes and movement of their arms and legs. And at the end of the 3rd month, all of his body parts will be formed. So the idea that this is just a clump of cells, it tells me people either forgot or don't understand human biology. Not to mention there are also laws in the books that are more stringent when there is harm to a pregnant woman. So there's plenty of inconsistencies here within our own law books. There's a lot more that I can add to this topic, but these are the 4 myths around overturning Roe versus Wade. And in the midst of sharing this, I think that I've shown my hand and you can tell kind of what I think about the topic. But I do want to make something very clear. I understand that women have made various choices for various reasons. It's not my intention to pile on or condemn anyone that has made a difficult decision like this. But what I do know is that anybody who calls on the name of Jesus will be cleansed of all sin. There's nothing that his blood does not cover when you come to him and you believe and follow on his name. So what do you have to add to this conversation? I would love to see your comments down below in the comments section, as long as you are respectful in doing so. And by the way, won't you share this video with someone who might benefit from this message? But in the meantime, I hope that this will help you to be strong and courageous in living out your faith today.